5 categories of must-have essential items if you're going to be long arm quilting. I put my list together. Each category is not too long, I promise, and there's a bonus category at the end. Hey, if you don't like this video, we can blame Barry. If you do like it, let's give him a thank you over on his channel too. See you in a second. Next thing on the list, can you hear it? It is hail. Hey guys, welcome or welcome back. Today we're going to do something a little bit different than we've ever done before. I was wondering, after spending 1,600 of my available hours this week on just the unpicking of the quilt, the hexie quilt that's on my long arm, what am I going to provide to you guys for content that has value to you, that means something to you? And then I watched Barry's video this morning. I thought, that's it. That's it. That's exactly what I'll do. He did a video, you can go and see it on his channel, that was all about what a beginner quilter needs, some basic tools that you need so that you kind of know how to get prepped. Well, I'm a pretty beginner long armer and I just got prepped and I got enough experience. I really know what things I did to get prepped really mattered and what things I learned pretty quickly I needed to still do. So I thought I'd share those with you. I've got 5 different categories and a bonus category at the end. If you want to stick around at the very end, I've got a question for you about some content I was thinking about releasing, but I'd like to get your input on that. And also, I'll update you on where the hexie quilt is. Just a real quick little ending, and then you can get back to your life. And I'll go through each of the steps of the things you need as quickly as I can, but try not to cut it too short so that there is value to you in this video. Let's get to it. There's enough talking. Our first category is fabric care. My 2 thoughts on that. There's something that always happens whenever you're putting a quilt on and you're getting them from other people. They're coming into you in various stages. They may be wrinkled or whatever. There's 2 things you need. One is going to be a mister. You guys have probably seen other quilters use them. They just spray out a really fine mist. I use like a 10%, maybe 15% of Mary Ellen's Best Press in mine with a little bit of water. When you've got a stubborn seam, a stubborn wrinkle, what you do is you just mist it with that spray bottle and that relaxes those fibers. If it's still resistant, you can take your cordless iron. I love mine. You can have it on steam and you can take your steam iron right over to your quilt top. All right, second category. Our second category is our tools. All right, I got a few of them. Snips on a clip. I'm telling you guys, my goodness, this has been such a difference to learn that I needed my snips, and I love these particular ones. These are the Karen K. Buckley's. She has some that has a little bit of a curve to them, which technically should be safer to use, but I feel like I have more accuracy with this, and I'm less likely actually to make a blunder with this. I knock on wood, I never make a blunder with them. But having it always available, I just put it right on my whatever top I've got going on. And if I don't have a top that I can put it on that I feel like it might stretch it out, I wear an apron because let me tell you, you just get lint on everything. It just accumulates. It multiplies like rabbits, I promise you. So sometimes I'll wear my apron if I really think that it's going to be a particularly linty day, and I'll just hook it on that. But having this right there where you never have to look for it, you just know it's right there and you grab it and then you stretch it out and you snip and it comes right back. The only problem is I have dogs, and whenever I lean over to pet them and this is leaning over too, I just have to be very conscientious not to hurt them. So there is a little cap that comes on this, but it slows me down when I'm in the mode to keep it on. So it comes on and off. Keep it on when you can. Essential is a seam ripper. As much as you try not to, you will find yourself needing to unstitch. Highly recommend the Clover white handle, and also its counterpart. This is a curved, you see that? It's a curved blunt awl. Love both of these. I've been using them a lot lately. That's the update you'll have at the end of the video. You will need a wrench. your machine will settle. When it first gets put in and installed, especially if it's installed on top of carpet, it will settle some, and you need it level. You can just use this to tighten it or loosen it. Real easy, but you're going to want to keep one of these nearby. Now let's get to machine care. The very basic, most important thing, taking care of your machine. You're going to need machine oil, and you're going to need to put it in your bobbin case. Little spring on the outside. You're going to need to put some oil on that every time you put a new bobbin in. Your machine is a workhorse, and you got to take care of it. Lint is building up, and you don't want any buildup. You don't want any parts getting dry. You want to take care of your machine. Keep it oiled. You will find yourself with lots of little scraps of batting. Keep them, because you will need this to clean off your rails, clean off your wheels, clean off all kinds of things. Every time that you load a new quilt, you need to clean your machine, clean your table, clean the bed, everything really well. These work great, fabulous. They're in your studio anyway. You'll find a use for them. Next thing on the list, a vacuum dedicated just for your machine. You're going to want to blow off what you can or suck up what you can. And I just recently found a very good use for this tool too. Whenever you're unstitching and you get a lot of little bitty threads, close your ears. The threads that are loose come right up. Really like this vacuum. Very easy to get to all that thread. See all that thread? And get that out very easily. Sure beats rebuying and rebuying and rebuying those rolls of sticky tape. Love this one. There were other attachments to it as well. This end blows, this side sucks, but it doesn't suck. That's a good job. And it's a great tool. And it wasn't very expensive, which is another bonus, right? Extra needles. You're going to need extra needles for your machine. It's going to tell you when it doesn't like its needle, because it's going to stop skipping stitches and breaking threads. It's amazing how something like cotton can dull a sharp little needle pretty quickly. I don't like it when my thread gets torn and I have to start all over or mend where the quilting lines are going. It's an issue. Avoid it. Put in a new needle every Monday. Get a rhythm. And that leads us right to the next category, our thread category. I recommend having another bobbin case off to the side. You can get it preloaded, get your tension just right on it, so that whenever this bobbin runs out, you don't have to waste time with the machine not quilting, right? It can be quilting while you're getting the next bobbin ready. And on the note of bobbin and thread, I recommend an assortment of threads. If you're in business, you can get them wholesale. If you're not in business yet, maybe you can work with a wholesaler to buy them. But I highly recommend having an assortment. Your color choices make a difference. Yeah, you can get away with just doing a lot of grays and a lot of light browns and things like that. But if you want to be creative and do some beautiful quilting and let even your simple edge-to-edge quilting, if you want that to really pop, your color is going to be the way to do that. Maybe the way you want it to pop is that your color doesn't stand out. Anyway, I highly recommend a variety of colors of threads and matching bobbins, and way more bobbins than you think you'll ever need, but you will. They run out far quicker than you think they would. The next thing on the list is the TOA gauge. This thing is a lifesaver. I love the TOA gauge. There is a way that you can check your bobbin. There's a tension test that you can do in your hand. But your TOA gauge, and this video is not about giving you instructions on how to use it, but your TOA gauge is perfect. Maybe in another video I'll give some instructions on it. But it's wonderful. I highly recommend having one. Now let's move on to the quilt and quilting care. I mentioned in one of my videos recently, sometimes you need to use some extra batting, squares or rectangles of it that you have laying around, or, maybe it's a scrap quilt, not made out of scraps, but, a lightweight quilt that is not something that's highly prized, right? Something to help bring tension to different areas of the quilt so that you can get a really squared up section and level out your quilting sandwich. Another item that I highly recommend, and I know you've seen others recommend it too, and that is a tall tiered cart. I've got 4 little baskets in this tiered cart, and I love this thing. I love that it's high up. My machine, I keep it high. I'm not that tall. I'm 5'4", and a little bit of change. But the thing is, I need my machine up high so I don't have to lean down over it. So I need my machine up and I need my cart up, and it works out beautifully. Might as well mention too, a stool is very helpful too, a tall stool. You don't always need it, but you need it when you need it. And so maybe have another place in your space where it can stand when you don't need it. On that subject, what are you standing on? I've got layers underneath me here. You're also going to need a flat and clean space of some sort, whether it's a top, tabletop that you've created, or it's a floor area. There's going to be times when you need to spread out your quilt sandwich or your backing or your top so that you can get it squared up before you get it loaded. You're going to need some way to load your quilt. I use snappers. I don't really care for the pins. It took too long for me. It was also a lot of leaning over. Just pause for a second. Can you hear what I hear? That is hail. This just started. Can you hear it? It is hail. This is a flat roof, and I've had more trouble with leaks in this house than I care to discuss. But I'm going to try to stay positive and finish our list. So where were we? We were on the snappers or pins. What you're doing with the pins is you're attaching them to the leaders. This is called a leader. And you're either going to use the pins or you're going to use the snappers. Snappers go on really quickly. I've got really bad arthritis in my thumbs and wrists, and I can still do them. It was hard the very first time that I had them in use because they were stiff. It's not really a problem now. It only took a time or two for them to loosen up, so I highly recommend those. Some people love their pins, and they use either like a corsage pin or some of the really long pins that you've seen me use on my design board. Something I didn't get initially that I find very important is a measuring tape. It says zero-centered measuring tape, and it helps me to make sure that my quilt is squared up. How do I know where it's centered to on this side? See if you can see this. This is a bungee cord that stretches from one side to the other, and it's got a cord stop in the middle. That is centered on my zero, and then I've got cord stops on either end that are aligned with the edge of the quilt, so that as your quilt's coming off of the belly roll, you know if it's getting cockeyed or not. Your machine, I don't know what machine you have. There's so many of them out there, and they're all different. I would imagine most of them come with lights. This one has a very bright light when it's on. This is the Handy Quilter MR20, and this particular table has an option for putting a light bar over it. I'd love to have one of those because I've got terrible lighting in here. When I need it, I'm using a clamp-on light. I really like my OTT light. It has 3 different levels, and it can be clamped on in a lot of different places. It's very, very helpful when you're unstitching. Last in this category is I have a full-length mirror. I think it's maybe 4 feet long. I really need to get a longer one, or maybe 2 of them. I have shelves underneath my machine that supports that mirror. So I can look down at the mirror and it shows me what's going on underneath the quilt. The only reason this quilt ended up with a large wrinkle in the back is because I just didn't use that mirror. It was covered up. The quilt was really large. The batting was hanging over the edge. And since I was so involved in other things, I didn't use it. You can put in all the stop measures that you want, but errors and oversights will still happen. And that leads us to our next category. And that is self-care, basically. I highly recommend that you come at this with so much curiosity, you don't have the bandwidth to get intimidated. It's going to be humbling. You're going to have roadblocks because you're going to do something like I did here. And, I got a wrinkle in the back of my quilt when I thought I was doing so beautifully and everything was going along swimmingly, because I was so focused on doing some new techniques, and it was such a large quilt that I didn't look underneath it. So a wrinkle happened. Very humbling. And then it's costing me a lot of time. You have to embrace those kinds of things and see that as an opportunity to learn and to grow as well. So that's what I'm saying. Come at this with a humble curiosity. When you're learning something brand new like this, you don't have room for intimidation. Crowd it out with curiosity. And it doesn't hurt to put on your machine something that brings you delight. I've got a couple of stickers on mine. This is my Victorian woman whose bobbin just ran out, and it makes her kind of second guess all of her life decisions. And then I've got one here that says, "I am sorry for what I said before I had my daily dose of studio time." And then over here, I have a member of the Worldwide Running Stitches Club. You're a long armor now, and to get to do that, to make beautiful things, you've got to fill your toolbox, and you are one of those tools. My friends, I hope this has been useful for you. I promised you at the very beginning that I had a question for you at the end. My question is, while making the last video for you guys, I recorded myself unstitching, and I had a little bit of dialogue with you at the very beginning. And then it went on for like 38 minutes of me just unstitching. And I didn't include it in that video because that video was long enough and it didn't bring value specific to the content topic, for that video. But I was thinking about releasing it. I don't want to mess up my algorithm. Leave me a comment down below if that's something you'd want to watch. It's, unedited. I would just put it up for you guys. I rewatched it to just make sure that there was nothing in it I wouldn't want you to see, like I wasn't yelling at my dogs or anything like that. And I enjoyed watching it. Now I was continuing to unstitch while I was watching it. So I was in that mindset of just needing something calm, but it was very calming. I could hear the pop and I could see what I was doing, and it was just kind of cool. So if you want to watch that, let me know and I'll just publish that really soon. The second thing I promised you was an update on the Hexie quilt. In the last video, I told you which part I wanted to unstitch and which part I didn't want to unstitch. I had rationale for why I could leave some parts of it unstitched and all that. Well, I decided the best thing to do is just unstitch the entire area. And that's what I've been doing. I have spent so much time unstitching, but I felt like it was going to be better for the quilt and probably better for me once I go to the point of quilting and not having to retrofit into a smaller area. So that's what I'm doing, trying to get a blank slate so that I can treat the backing of this quilt properly, make sure it's right for my customer, and everybody is happy in the end. Cost me a little bit of time, a lot of humility too. But like I said earlier, what do we have to have if we're going to be quilt makers? We have to have humble curiosity, let our creativity flow, and just, don't expect yourself to be perfect. I hope you keep moving the needle in your studio. I'll be doing the same here, doing a little bit of unstitching too. See you in the next video. Bye-bye. They entertain me while I try to work. That's their job, and they do it well.